Well, it's about 4:15 in the afternoon on Friday, the 18th of November. I'm down in the workshop right now, and I need to repair some of my bird feeders. This is one of them. Now, this bird feeder typically sits on a stand that I built, and I had it designed so it would just sit in this sort of little cage type area on the stand, and that I could remove it to clean it out and then set it back in this little wooden holder. It holds it fairly snugly, but what happened to this feeder and another one that I have in a similar situation up in the North Woods is that the raccoons would come in and they would have just enough weight, I guess, to tip them out of their little cradles, and they'd crash on the ground. And what's happened to both of them is that the ends here, which I have sort of carved out like an arch shape just to allow the birds to go in and out of the ends as well, the ends have cracked. So I need to take the ends out. They're just screwed in to the roof and the bottom, so that's no problem. I'll use these existing ends themselves as templates to draw a pattern on a new board, and then I'll cut two ends out of the new board and stick them back in, and then I'm going to design a new holder on the stand so they can't flip out unless I want them to. Just a close-up showing the crack here. Goes right through the wood, and then the whole roof is loose because of it. And then the other side is the same basically. This one's actually even worse, fractured. There's the roof piece removed. Pieces. Yeah, so I got the whole thing taken apart. This is one of the end pieces here. And it's 11 3/4 of an inch wide, that board. And it's about, looks like it's about 15 inches tall. So I'll see if I have another board like that. Yeah, so this is some 1x12 pine. It actually measures 1x11.5. So that'll do fine. I'll just cut out a couple pieces 15 inches long, and then I'll have to cut the peak on each one according to the template from the other ends, and then I probably will cut out another little arch design here. I like the ability for the birds to come out the ends as well, or go in the ends. So I've drawn on the peaks of the roof and then also the arch in the end for one of them. I'll cut this out of this one right now, and then I'll use it as a template for the other one. So the roof appears to have about a 27-degree pitch on it, according to my miter saw here. I've just lined it up by eye as best as I can, and then I run the saw along it just before I start it, just to see if it's running along the line approximately close, and it is. So just going to saw that off here. Now I just flip the piece over, and I can see where the saw is going to hit the peak here, so that I can just run it out here, and it should be correct. Okay, now I'm just going to use the jigsaw to cut out this arch pattern in the end piece here. I've pre-drilled a couple holes just to allow the jigsaw blade to enter first. So here's the two end pieces now. What I'm going to do now is just take either a piece of sandpaper or a file and just smooth out the edges of these archways, just so they're not really full of splinters and things for the birds. Smooth that out, and then I can put this together with the old pieces of the remaining bird feeder. So I've just chosen a rasp file here to do this. Just a quick softening of the edge, which was easier to do, I figured, with a rasp than sandpaper typically. And we don't need a real fine edge here, just to make sure there's nothing really sharp sticking out anywhere. That's probably good enough. As you can see, this isn't a perfect archway or anything. It's not precise. There's a little bit of a wobble, and it's not exactly perfect dimensions, but the whole purpose of this is just to allow the birds a place to come into and out of the feeder on the ends, not just the sides. So there we go. I've just put the two end pieces temporarily sitting on the floor. That's where they're going to go. I haven't screwed them in yet, but that's the next step, is just to screw them in, and then I can screw the old roof boards on the roof. Those boards are still good, so they can last for a number of more years. I'll be using some old 2-inch wood screws that I had kicking around. These were for being used in pressure treated wood. This isn't pressure treated wood, but I've got a few of these left, so I'll use these. And I can make use of the previous holes that I had. For the other one, I'll just use the same holes for these. There we go. Two ends are in. So just starting the roof here. I've got 2 screws in this roof panel, using 1 3/4 inch deck screws for this. Just a couple in each end is fine. And there we are. My bird feeder is functional again. Once I've got the stand figured out, which shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my little sander here and sand along the bottom edge of the feeder in the middle section, because this is where it sits in the wooden cradle that I built upon the stand. And the last time I tried to put this into that cradle, it wouldn't really go in very easily, so I don't know if the wood has expanded in the moisture or what have you, but I thought I'd just take a little bit off of this. I do want it to fit snugly, but I don't want it to be so hard I can hardly get it into the cradle. So I'm just going to sand a little bit off here on each side. Hopefully then it'll slip in a little easier, and then I just have to figure out the little mechanism to hold this onto the stand without letting it fall out if a raccoon or something gets in it. I think I'm going to take the 2 screws or 3 screws holding this little side plate in place out as well. I'm going to remove the plate, and then I'm going to sand the inside bottom of this too, because it's getting quite rough and dirty looking. So I've decided to put a piece of this 2-inch angle flashing on the peak of the roof just to give it more waterproof protection on the peak where the 2 pieces of board come together. That'll help it prevent rotting in that location. So I'll just screw this in with a few little tiny wood screws. So there we are, all fixed up. Even put the flashing on the top to help keep the water out of the peak area. Now I just have to go out and see how it sits in the cradle and figure out a way to lock it in there until I want to take it out. Sounds easy, but it rarely is. Okay, here's the moment of reckoning, everybody. I brought the bird feeder out to the stand here. As you can see, I just created a little cradle on top of this 4x4 post. It basically is just a couple pieces of wood horizontally with a couple on top to hold the feeder in lengthwise. So let's see how she goes. Hopefully all will fit. Oh, beautiful. Just nicely fit in there. You can see it's just held in the middle. But you can see I can lift it out to clean it, and that's what I wanted. But if a raccoon gets in there, it can tip it over and crash to the ground. So I've just got to figure out a little mechanism to hold it with. I could drill a hole through these sidebars into the floor of the thing, but then I'd have to take a screw out every time. I could put a little strap of wire across here, but that seems kind of chinchy, and the wire would get in the way of the birds too. The other option is I could simply drill a screw down into the center of the 4x4 to hold it, but then I'd have to be taking a screw out there every time to just take it out. I want it to be an easy process, just to lift it off and then to replace it. Anyhow, there we are, all fixed up, ready to go again. Unfortunately, since it broke, I've let it sit on the ground for probably a year or more. I've been kind of lazy about fixing it, so it wasn't that hard. It's just a matter of getting it in and taking it apart and making a few new pieces. So yeah, so at least for a temporary period, I think I'm going to just drill a hole through here into the bottom board of this feeder, and then I'm just going to insert this roofing nail in there, and I'll put one in the other side too, and that should act as a lock And then if I think of a better method to use, I'll do that eventually. But right now I'm just gonna use this method, get the approximate center of that board in behind. And these nails will be just sitting in there, but there shouldn't be anything that's forcing them out. There, so now we've got a lock, and I can just pull out the nail, and I'll put one in the other side as well, and hopefully that'll hold for a little while until I think of a better way. I just want something simple. Simple and easy. See, now it can't come out even with that one nail. I'll put one in the other side just for assurance. Yeah, that worked well, I think. Certainly not going to fall out of the slot here anymore. And I've got good wide feet on the stand, so it would almost be a hurricane that would have to knock it over. So, and then if I want to, I just take out the nail and one on the other side, and then I can lift it right off. Not a bad little system. Should work. Catch you later.